Today, I will be showing you a widely renowned war film from 2001 called Black Hawk Down. Sit back, relax and brace yourself for the spoiler. The movie's opening scene shows the status of Somalia, East Africa, in 1992, where decades of conflict between opposing tribes have resulted in biblical-scale starvation that led to the death of 300,000 people. The country's capital, Mogadishu, is ruled by warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid, one of the region's most powerful figures known to seize food supplies arriving at the ports from other countries. Somalia is in a civil war, and hunger is Aidid's greatest weapon in the battle he is waging against the nation. But the United Nations answered Aidid's unlawful act and restored peace order through the 20,000 U.S. Marine Force. In April 1993, Aidid waited for the Marines to withdraw before declaring war on the remaining United Nations troops. Aidid's militia then ambushes and kills 24 Pakistani troops in June of the same year. They then turn their attention to American personnel right after. In late August, Delta Force, Army Rangers, and the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, of the United States Army are sent to Mogadishu for a 3-week mission to eliminate Aidid and restore peace and order. Fast forward to Saturday, October 2, 1993, a bird, chopper, is seen flying over the city to watch over the food supplies delivered at the Red Cross Distribution Center. People were rushing to get their ration. They were fighting over sacks of rice. Until Aidid's militia arrives and starts shooting the unarmed civilians. The militia then declares that no one should touch the food supplies as they belong to Aidid. The Super 64 bird is still roving around the area, and its pilot Chief Warrant Officer 3 Clifton Elvis Walcott requests permission to engage and shot down the militia. However, his request was denied as it is not part of the UN's jurisdiction. They cannot intervene. Instead, they were ordered to return to their base. While in the capital's Mogadishu Bakara market, the Aidid-controlled territory is busy with gun trading. Sergeant First Class Norm Hoot Gibson was secretly spying on Osman Ali Otto's whereabouts. Otto's convoy then arrived to fetch him. While the convoy is on the road, the Delta Force fires a single shot on the car's engine block to stop the jeep. The team successfully intercepts Osman Ali Otto, who sold guns to Aidid's militia. He was then brought to Major General Garrison. Otto informs the general that taking and keeping him won't simply make Aidid show up. Otto further said that it was terrible that the U.S. Marine Force chose to come to Somalia and fight for their civil war. Meanwhile, in Mogadishu Airport U.S. Army headquarters, a new recruit, Private First Class Todd Blackburn, shows up to the registrar to have his details keyed in before deploying to his mission. Blackburn was then introduced to Staff Sergeant Madhu Eversman. When the team is relaxing in their tent, Lieutenant John Beals has a seizure while watching his favorite TV show. The following day, Sunday, October 3rd, Lieutenant Beals is sent home by the Rangers captain, Mike Steele. Halawadig Road, Bakara Market, Aidid's militia stronghold. An actual intel is spying on Aidid, who will meet with its senior cabinet members at around 3 p.m. somewhere in the Bakara market. The senior cabinet meeting will be attended by their targets, Omar Salad, Aidid's top political advisor, and Abdi Hassan Awali, the interior minister. With the confirmation of actual intel, the U.S. Marine Force starts planning their mission with Assault Force Delta infiltrating the target building at around 3:45 p.m. seizing all suspects within. And Captain Steele's Security Force Rangers will rope in at 3:46 p.m. and secure the perimeter. While Lieutenant Colonel McKnight's Humvee column will drive in at 3:47 p.m. on Halawadig Road and hold just short of the Olympic Hotel. Once Delta gives the word, the McKnight column will go to the target and load them onto the trucks. After the targets or prisoners are loaded, the 4 Rangers will collapse back to the target building. They will then load up to the Humvees, and the entire ground force will leave and return to the base. The team is only given 30 minutes to perform and accomplish the mission successfully. And as a support to the team, Black Hawks and Little Birds with miniguns and Hydra 70 rockets will provide the air cover. In the C-2 Bird, Colonel Matthews will coordinate the air mission while Colonel Harrell will coordinate ground forces with mission launch code word, Irene. Around 2:29 p.m., the Bird started checking the area following their intel named Abdi. However, General Garrison is beginning to doubt the intel as he cannot provide the exact location. Tired of doing a Russian roulette with Abdi, General Garrison orders the team to have Abdi position his car right in front of the building. Otherwise, he won't get paid or probably have a bullet in his head. Abdi then stops in front of a building and opens up his car's hood, which signals the team that they are in the right place. Mission Code Irene was then activated, and the team started moving. As the team is seen approaching, the militia's intel starts calling ID'd soldier. He then alerted his team. They then start burning tires to signal the militia that the U.S. soldiers are coming. The civilians then start running away from the streets when they see the Humvees convoy and the birds flying above them. The Delta Force immediately jumps off from the little bird and starts shooting the militias. The Rangers rope in and secure the perimeter while the ground forces are approaching the area. When it's Private First Class Blackburn's time to rope in, the militia starts firing RPG at them. The pilot sways and avoids it, but it causes Blackburn to fall down. While Staff Sergeant Eversman, Sergeant First Class Kurt Doc Schmidt, and Sergeant Scott Galantine tries to save Blackburn, the militia starts firing them. They then carry Blackburn through a stretcher to the Humvees. C2 then starts orbiting the area to cover the snipers while Super 61, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer 3 Cliff Elvis Scott, calls Kilo 11 SFC Norm Hoot Gibson to provide cover to the prisoner extract. The Delta then gives the green light signal to Kilo 64, a superior officer call sign, indicating that they have a successful mission and are ready for extraction. Kilo 64 then relays the message to Uniform 64 or Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight. The ground force is now ready to move out. Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight and his team arrived at the extraction area. Prisoners were then loaded to the Humvees, including Blackburn. He then ordered SPC John Grimesy Grimes to assist his teammates. While Grimes is rushing towards his team, the militia starts shooting him and firing RPG. Colonel McKnight then calls Romeo 64, requesting permission to move 3 Humvees with the casualty. While they were on the way to the base, Sergeant Pillow was shot and instantly died, and Super 61 was hit by an RPG. It starts to go down. The command center was then informed that Super 61, a Black Hawk, is down in the city. The command center orders to check for survivors and send in the SAR bird. He then orders the ground forces to move and secure the crash area. Juliet 25 or Sergeant Eversman then rushes to the crash site with Sergeant First Class Schmidt and Sergeant Galantine. While the ground force is moving to the crash site, Colonel McKnight's team finishes loading the prisoners and will meet the rest of the team at the crash site to pick them up. C2 convoy starts moving out without knowing that they left SPC Lance Twombly and SPC Sean Nelson, who were holding the corner while waiting for the Humvees to exfil. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Cliff Elvis Scott tries to hold his ground, firing the militias until the support reaches the location. Meanwhile, the 3 Humvees reach the base. The medics rush to the Humvees for first aid, only to find out that they're all dead. The ground force on foot reaches the crash site and rescues the survivors. But with too much resistance, both the birds and the Humvees are having trouble getting into the area. The ground force then needs to secure the perimeter first to get the 2 wounded soldiers and the corpses of the pilots. The militia and the U.S. forces continue to exchange bullets. SPC Nelson and SPC Twombly realize that there are no exfil in Humvees. They need to go to the crash site. As the war continued, Super 68's top rotor was hit and was advised to come out. While they were roping in the last man, they saw the militia with RPG coming right through them. Fortunately, they are quick enough to shot them first. However, with the situation in the crash site, carrying the survivors will just kill them. They need to stabilize the bird. The ground forces and Super 64 will position and cover the crash site. While Super 64 is flying towards the site, the bird is clipped pretty badly. Super 64's rotor tail malfunctions, and after a few minutes, the bird goes down. Meanwhile, SPC Twombly and SPC Nelson push to the crash site and meet Sergeant Urick on the way. Galantine tries to reach and check the 3, but he gets no answer. The ground troops have taken over several structures, however, they are all over the place. The Chalk 4 of Staff Sergeant Eversman has established a perimeter around the first crash site. He established a location where the dead and injured might be gathered together, while Captain Steele and a large group of Rangers are only a few streets away. However, both are unable to move since they are surrounded by the militia. While the Delta team was charging towards the second crash site, they were met by several armed men who were firing non-stop at them. When these men were reloading, the Delta team started firing back, killing them instantly. The extraction team then arrives and sets up a perimeter for the extraction. However, they are on the wrong site. They need to get out of the place and go back to Hallwittig. After successfully passing through the road full of militants shooting RPGs at them, the team was advised to go back through the same route. They were then bombarded by RPGs after RPGs, again. With no support team on the second crash site, Chief Warrant Officer 4 Michael Durant, the pilot of the Super 64, holds up against the crowd who keeps shooting him, until Sergeant First Class Randy Shugart and Master Sergeant Gary Gordon arrive. The two pull out the pilot and secures him away from the crowd. Colonel McKnight and his team, on the other hand, are back to the location where they started, with low ammo and too many wounded soldiers, including himself. Seeing their situation, Colonel McKnight confirms that going to the crash site is negative. They need to be back to the base as soon as possible to rearm and regroup the team. The command center then agrees to them. 4:54 p.m. After learning that Colonel McKnight's team returns to base, Staff Sergeant Eversman needs to hold and secure the casualty perimeter a little bit longer, and they need to conserve their ammo. On the second crash site, the crowd slowly advances to the location. Unfortunately, Master Sergeant Gordon was shot and killed immediately. General Garrison now needs support from the Pakistanis, Malays, everyone. They need their tanks and APCs to move the men out of the hostile area and move it to a safe zone, Pakistani Stadium. The militia then takes control of the second crash site. The last man standing, Chief Warrant Officer 4 Michael Durant, was beaten badly until Ideed's men came and declared that Ideed needed him to be alive. Colonel McKnight's team reaches the base. They unloaded the prisoners and started regrouping. The remaining ground forces and the convoy can't pass through the second crash site with roadblocks after roadblocks. Kilo 11 then requests permission to move to the crash site on foot. Kilo 64 approves his request. The vehicle stops, and the team starts walking to the crash site. 5:50 p.m. Sergeant First Class Sanderson is coming to rescue Staff Sergeant Eversman's team. Eversman informs Sanderson that there's another team in the southeast corner, and they need them to be in the northeast of the building and that they need to be careful as the militia or the skinnies are all over the rooftop. Master Sergeant Gordon, SPC Nelson, and SPC Twombly finally reach the first crash site. They're coming from the west gate. Gordon goes out first, followed by Nelson, then Twombly. The militia noticed them running, and they started firing at them, wounding Twombly and Smith. They need a medevac right away. But General Garrison cannot risk more men. Kilo 11 reaches the second crash site and secures it. General Garrison then receives a call that the Pakistanis are still debating which route to take, which will take another couple of hours before the Pakistanis' 10th Mountain and 100 vehicles reach the site. Chief Warrant Officer 4 Michael Durant was then taken as a hostage, though Durant tells them that the government will not negotiate for him. The militia then starts a surprise attack, firing the team and bombing their locations. 11:23 p.m. The birds and the convoy starts arriving at the location. But they are running out of ammo. They need to hold out the site for another 5 more minutes before the convoy arrives. Fortunately, the birds show up flying right above their location and start a fire run. 2:05 a.m. Colonel McKnight's convoy arrives. Eversman then starts loading his man into the vehicle. McKnight and the team try to dismantle the entire cockpit that locks up the pilot's lower body. No one gets left behind. 5:45 a.m., Monday, October 4th. The war continued, and the U.S. forces, with the help of the Pakistanis, were able to secure the perimeter. They were then loaded to the Humvees for extraction. However, since all the vehicles were full, around 8 to 10 soldiers were left behind. The convoy was supposed to cover them. But they weren't able to hold up. ID's militia starts chasing the remaining soldiers. The armed men then begin firing at them. Fortunately, all of them are able to reach the safe zone. Staff Sergeant Eversman saw Sergeant First Class Hoot fixing his things. He will go back to rescue the rest of the team, whether they are dead or alive. Eversman wants to go with him, but Hoot stops him. As the movie ends, Staff Sergeant Eversman bids his goodbye to Private First Class Blackburn and says that nobody asks to be a hero, but sometimes it turns out that way. Over 1,000 Somalis were killed in the operation, along with 19 American soldiers. Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart, two Delta sergeants who died during the war, were rewarded the Medal of Honor. They were the first soldiers to receive the award after the Vietnam War. President Clinton ordered the withdrawal of Delta Force and the Rangers from Somalia 2 weeks after Chief Warrant Officer 3 Michael Durant was freed, and Mohammed Farah Aidid was assassinated in Mogadishu on August 2, 1996. After he was killed, General Garrison announced his retirement the following day. Subscribe for more videos like this and turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.